Look in the camera. Hi, guys. Please join the Patreon. Now, Judge, I named it the Real Dana Network, and then I have a tier, Judge Joe Brown Uncensored. But I think I'm going to just have one tier, right? Because the whole thing is uncensored. And I'm going to name it the Real Dana and Judge Joe Brown Uncensored.
Tune in for the first episode of Judge Joe and Dana After Dark.
That's a good one. So, guys, go click the Patreon link below and become a member. We are building a Patreon community so that me, and especially the judge, can talk about things that he cannot talk about on YouTube or anywhere else. The reason why he gets flagged and banned, he will be discussing it on Patreon. And then I will be uploading my life when I go to the gym and stuff like that, if you're curious. But join the Patreon of Judge Joe Brown and the Real Dana.
I promise I won't do anything like that.
All right. And that's it. We are done. Hi, guys. Testing. Can you guys hear me? Happy Monday. Ooh. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Man Up Monday. Politics Monday. Welcome to the show, honey, because as you know, we changed the time from 9 p.m. at night to 3 p.m. in the afternoon because I have a day. I have things to do, like edit. Hi, everybody. Are you guys snowed in like me? Well, I'm in Ohio, so this is somewhat normal, even though people in Ohio said they've been having mild winters for the last 5-7 years. So they're really hating this winter because we're getting a lot of snow. We got like a foot. I'm snowed in. I am snowed in. And but when I'm finished with the show, I will be going out. I told my father to show me how to use the snow blower because I have to dig my car out because I don't put it in the garage. I'm just too lazy to do that because I have to go somewhere tomorrow. So I say all that to say I'm gonna be doing some manual labor later on, and this will be my first and only time because my father is getting older. So I am looking to hire a teenager who wants to make money to use a snow plow to plow the snow here and a couple of our neighbors because I'm not doing it. I'm doing it today just to dig my car out to snow, but I would never touch a shovel or a snow plow again. No, no, no. So yeah. So let me know if you guys are snowed in and what city. And shout out to Australia because I see Carolyn is in the chat all the way from Sydney. Yes. It's 8 p.m. here in the UK. Ja. Shout out to the UK. Well, your editing has slowed down, of course. What do you mean, my editing, honey? I do got to edit that clip a little bit. Okay, Judge, I see you in your dark, honey. Fix that camera. And you probably don't have sound. The judge is snowed in too. So join the Patreon, guys. That was just a quick snafu Patreon promo that me and the judge did. I gotta edit out like the last 2 seconds, but join the Patreon. It's pinned in the chat and it's in the description. Join, join, join. I just uploaded a video yesterday. So a brand new video every week. And sometimes you're going to get 2 or 3 videos a week and a lot of great uncensored content. And I'm going to create a Rumble page for the judge. So I already have a Rumble page, but I named it the Real Dana Network. No, I'm just going to change it to Judge Joe Brown, and it's going to be his Rumble page. Because I want him to start doing a couple of lives on Rumble. Because YouTube can be shady, honey. Very shady. Hold on for a second. Hello? Okay, I can't hear you or see you, Judge. So go out and come back in. Go out and come back in if you can hear or see me. I may gotta push him out myself. Okay, yeah, he's going out. Come back in. So he's the judge of Snowden. Is a lot of snow in Tennessee, and nope, you still dark, and I can't hear you. You still dark, and I can't. Tuesday 7. Oh, honey, it is 7 a.m. Yes, honey, and I know the U.S. Open is still going on in Sydney, and I've been trying to stay on top of that. I can hear you now, but now I can't see you, Judge.
You turned me off, remember, so they wouldn't see inside my house. You said it's
I didn't
dark
turn
in
you.
here, and I said I was moving around. So check to see that you didn't block me.
I did not
Or,
block you. I didn't do anything.
well, okay, I could hear you. I heard you say it's dark in there, and I was saying I had to move around to get a signal to get on.
Right. So the judge is Snowden. I say all this to say it's yeah. So just give us a minute because when
Let me try one thing.
yeah. So I'm getting
Let
Starlink.
me try go back in.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
I just seen him and he popped out. He popped out when as soon as his face popped in on the screen. There you go. There you go.
It's
Look at
showing that
you.
you have. All right, let's see. Here we go. There we go.
Well, let me switch it. So yeah.
Which is flip it around. All right, there we go.
So I was saying that Starlink, honey, I'm about to sign up for Starlink because you know regular residencies, you could get a Starlink for your internet service and it's way better. So I'm about to sign up for Starlink and it's only $50 a month and that's for the top speed. Um the Starlink satellite thing is like $200. It's worth it. It's people in the middle of Atlantic Ocean on a rowboat and they get internet service because they have Starlink. So
Well, guess what? My watch says if I want to, I can use a satellite connection. Just have to step outside to do it. It's kind of cold out there. And there's a sign that is now covered with snow out in my front yard where AT&T is working saying new super fast service. We're putting in a new system in your neighborhood. Wish they'd hurry up and do it.
well, I told you said, well, this was earlier when we spoke, and you was like, well, I think I'm going to put my ski shoes on and go skiing outside. I said, no, because you're not going to be on time if you go out.
I did it.
You went outside skiing with your ski boots.
Yeah. I went down the street, came back up, went down, came back up, went down, went a little further up the hill and just glided up. I can ski, so it was just I just straight lined it. Boom. It was interesting. Took a few curves, swerves when I got down to maximum speed at the bottom of the slight hill. But anyway, walked back, put them out in the garage so they will drip dry, and put the ski boots back in the bag. It's an interesting bag. You plug it in and it keeps everything in there warm. A late friend of mine invented the things, and what it's good for is when your boots are warm, you can slip them right on like a pair of shoes instead of going through all of the changes you usually have to go through with cold boots. And the smaller you can tolerate your ski boots, the more control you have over what you're doing when you're skiing. And you shouldn't wear socks, thick socks, under ski boots because it actually cuts down the insulation that is produced by the foam lining that you have inside the boot. So you should wear thin dress socks instead of thick ones because you have more control. But of course, you have to get to the point where you can tell the difference, which I can.
Of what?
In other words, control. Skis are like flying an airplane. If you want to go to the left, you bank to the left, and if you had a canard where the tail was in the front, you would hit the elevator and you'd go around the left. The skis already are sloped up at the front, so all you have to do is cant them and you go around to the left. If you can roller skate, it's much easier to ski than it is to roller skate. In fact, at 60 miles an hour, literally, you can make a turn on skis faster than you can on a car in a car. It's like
Mm,
being on railroad tracks when you when you carve into the snow, but you got to learn to do that.
mhm. Okay. Well, listen, guys. We're gonna have a really good show today. Um, can you guys please hit the like button?
Yeah, do that. They try to
Share,
downplay what you do and say you aren't watching.
yeah, share the like button and share the like button. That's because
Yeah,
I'm
somebody gets 1.5 million views because they said I had purple jello and it quivered when I put my fork in it. And you and idiots out there, go, oh my God. And they share it. Like, what?
well, all right. So, yeah. So Minnesota mayhem. So we got to talk about Minnesota. The shooting, another white person, another white protester, liberal person. Ooh. Um, who's this? Thank you so much. Ankar. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Dana emailed you. What email address? Did you send it to Dana with the data at email? Because I didn't get anything. But Dana emailed you about having Judge Joe Brown come on Anton Daniels channel for a good conversation about manhood, life politics, and bringing the black community together through truth. The bag chasers love Judge, and we what it says, and we would love to have his wisdom graces. I appreciate the lovely donations. Send me another email today. Dana with the data at gmail.com is going across the screen below. So send me another email today. And I will definitely reply back. Um, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Um, but make sure you send me that email today because I did not catch your email. And I could have, missed it because I really don't check emails over the weekend and I need to get better at that. But anyway, Minnesota, another white person was shot, another protester. Protesters are out of line. It's chaos. And of course, we have to talk about that. We have to talk about Pam Bondi, Don Lemon. Um, I am going to sprinkle in some pop culture. That's later in the show. And we do have a guest, Miss Pamela Denise Long. She is running for Senate in the state of Illinois. She's coming back on. That's going to be later. We're going to have a good conversation with her. But we got to get down to the Minnesota. But however, before we get down to the Minnesota, I want to start off with this and then we're going to get down to the business, okay? So this guy here, where we at? Oh, this guy here, his name is Ice Speed. Judge, he got 50 million followers on YouTube.
So what does he talk about?
Nothing. He traveled to different countries and I guess he do challenges because he's supposed to be fast. So he challenged people with their speed. I don't know. He has 50,000,
Speed with what?
whether it's racing. So right here, this is some type of oh no, this is not it here. I gotta share this here. Okay, you see this? Yeah. So he's in the Ivory Coast. And remember this was the in the movie Sinners and they had that music montage and they had
Yeah, I know. I tuned out on that because it's nonsense. I don't pay attention to anything that doesn't have much to do with whether my taxes go up or down, whether my income goes up and down, whether the Medicare goes up or down, insurance goes ups or downs, taxation for property is up or down, the weather, whether we are about to go shoot somebody in a war, how this diplomacy is going along. That's interesting. I
Mhm.
don't care.
I Show Speed, that's his name. So this young
I
guy,
don't care.
he's in he's well, let me just say this. So I Show Speed, 50 million subscribers on YouTube, and I guess it's catered to
50
around.
million people because he dances. See, that's what's wrong with the public. They get all weirded out on minstrel shows. Not, I mean, if he's got a talent, he's got a talent. But I like to see people have, when it's a physical talent, I like to see it be accompanied by something from up here that has to do with things that count. You know, these are distractions. The Romans discussed these things 2 millennia ago. Julius Caesar, in particular, famous for saying, "Give the mob bread and circuses, feed them and entertain them, and they won't care what their betters do when they get run by the aristocracy." And that's kind of been what it is for the longest time. Distract ordinary people and they lose track of what counts.
So he's doing his Africa tour, Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Senegal. And here, so this is why I wanted to bring this up to you because, I saw the movie Woman King, and he is in Benny right here. He's in Benny, and he's visiting the statue of the legendary Dahomey woman warrior.
That's a bunch of bitches. They ought to be all dug up, put on a wall, and their corpses shot. They are they got financed by the Dutch all the way up to the 20th century to kidnap and enslave folk. They really weren't running stuff like they had in the movie. There were two blood kin brothers that were expected. One of them was supposed to kill the other one off so the survivor could be the high king. They decided to collaborate and set up a new system. So the system was is instead of having the tribal nobility run things, they got commoners to run things, but there was a caveat to the thing. The commoner had to have a female relative that was kept in a harem. And if the commoner who was the magistrate or the officer in some of the military got out of line, the female relative was killed, and they gave the female relative an interesting thing of vetoing anything that the male relative gave. So the whole thing would be paralyzed except for what they chose to do. So for 200 some years, the Dahomians kidnapped a whole lot of Africans. They'd run raids into the Nigerian area and capture House of Fulani and Yoruba and Igbo and sell them off into slavery. So that's like to celebrate that thing is like Jewish people celebrating some collaborating Jewish women who acted as spies and Jew catchers for the Nazis during World War II, if such a thing was out there. So that's how bad it is. It's just absolutely ridiculous that colored folk, Negroes, let Hollywood bamboozle them into giving them that big cash flow to celebrate one of the most embarrassing, disgusting, and reprehensible things in African history. Now, that's what I think about it.
So this person here put,
And my family's got a long standing grudge. I had a great grandfather who was a Nigerian and he got kidnapped second decade of the 19th century after the African slave trade was outlawed in the Constitution. I think it says no more importation of slaves after 1808, 1806. And he got brought over in the early 18 teens and they had to let him go. So
Mhm.
He had a lot of negative to say about it. And my grandfather, who was born before the Civil War, he lived over to be over 100, and he left some writings about it. And the family on that side, they just have an absolute rabid distaste for anything coming from the army, and I guess that
Yeah.
got in me too.
So this person on X, when he posted this clip, he put the Dahomey were brutal flesh traders. 20% of slaves sent to the Americas passed through the devilish kingdom.
There it is.
Speed's team should have educated him instead of letting him get finessed by slave trade tourists.
Exactly.
So
See,
yeah.
when you do this, be careful what you're doing when you're on script or you got a bright idea for entertainment. You may be getting into something hideous.
Mhm. All right, let's get down to the business. So this is Trump on Truth Social here. Let's see what this looks like. Actually, I'm gonna do it this way. 21 hours ago, Trump posted on Truth Social, that is why I hereby calling on Governor Walz, Mayor Frey, and every Democrat governor and mayor of the United States of America to formally cooperate with the Trump administration to enforce our nation's laws rather than resist and stoke the flames of division, chaos, and violence. One, Governor Walz and Mayor Frey should turn over all criminal legal aliens that are currently incarcerated in their state prisons and jails to federal authorities, along with all illegal criminals with an active warrant or known criminal history for immediate deportation. Two, state and local law enforcement must agree to turn over all illegal aliens arrested by local police. Three, local police must assist federal law enforcement in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens who are wanted for crimes. Four, Democrat politicians must partner with the federal government to protect American citizens and the rapid removal of all criminal illegal aliens in our country. Some Democrats in places like Memphis, Tennessee, or Washington, D.C. have done so, resulting in safer streets for all. In addition, I hereby calling on the United States Congress to immediately pass legislation to end sanctuary cities, which is the root cause of all these problems. American cities should be safe sanctuaries for law-abiding American citizens only, not illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws. All of these requests are rooted in common sense, and we and will provide the best possible circumstances to make America great again. The Trump administration is standing by and waiting for any Democrat to do the right thing and work with us on these important matters of making America safe, like it is in all sections of the country where we are, together with local leadership participating and involved. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
He's being bamboozled. The Democrats in Memphis are just as crooked as anybody in this country can possibly be who has either an elected or an appointed position, and they're trying to collaborate so that they don't get the spotlight turned on them and get indicted and put in jail for malfeasance, misappropriation, or outright theft of funds. There are some big scams going on in Memphis that are to a lesser extent revealed in the series of indictments that comes out of Jackson, Mississippi, where some of the administration from previous mayors to current city councilmen are involved allegedly in those things. And they got the prototype or the ideas from what's going on in Memphis, which is still going on in Memphis. There are a couple of $1 billion out there that have been stolen by this bunch of clowns, and it is inappropriate. They all ought to go to jail. Now, that's what I have to say about it. Any commendation to this bunch of idiots in Memphis. They didn't sue him to stop ICE, not ICE, because they wanted to stop the National Guard, and they didn't sue Donald Trump. They sued the governor, Republican, of the state of Tennessee, Attorney General of the state of Tennessee, who is Republican. And I believe the gentleman is a former judge who is a Major General commanding the Tennessee National Guard. They want him out of here so they can have theft and death on the streets of Shelby County / Memphis, Tennessee, I guess, so they can um, do what they do and get away with it because people are concerned about staying alive going to get a tank of gas. It is
Mhm.
the murder capital of the United States. It's the 10th most dangerous city in the whole world. And the next American city that is on that dangerous list, which is number 2 in the United States, is way down that international list. It's a disgrace.
Mhm. Well, the authorities, right? Because I agree with what Trump is saying. Listen, you Democrats, because that's where all the sanctuary cities are at. They're Democrat led. Why haven't you handed over the undocumented illegal immigrants that were arrested that have a record? Now, a lot of them, particularly
Would
in
you
New
like
York.
me to give you a translation? I want you to discuss the translation. It is a warning, it is a threat posed as a compliment because there is 18 United States Code, Criminal Code, Section 111, and 8 United States Code, Criminal Code, Section 1324, that says there is no exemption for official action or official status or agencies for violating this law that's got to do with setting up sanctuary cities, giving aid, comfort, advisement, counsel, transportation, housing, feeding them, attempting to assist in evading apprehension or detection, apprehension, detention, and deportation of any illegal. That's a felony. And also the other one that deals with 18 United States Code Section 111 that deals with interfering with the operations of ICE or agencies of the U.S. government that are charged with enforcing these laws. So, what you may get when you get any kind of cooperation is in return for me opening my mouth in public and saying that I am not going to oppose this, or at least not Donald Trump, the Baba Yaga, directly the way they want to put it out, but we'll go against the Republican administration of a state, is perhaps an exemption from prosecution for various and sundry federal crimes. So that is the translation of what you're hearing.
From the
Trump
president.
is brilliant at that, and he does rattle, do what they used to call rattling a saber. You know, they had a metal scabbard by the turn of the 20th century, and they'd rattle them around and just mess with me, and you get all hacked up with it. So that's what you're looking at
Mm.
and what you're listening to. It's an open threat posed as uh, a compliment or a commendation to those that are cooperating. In other words, you're going to jail if you keep this up. So, I'll give you a little kudo. It's like the clown in New York, the socialists that got in because so many of the people in New York that are now there are from the Caribbean or other locations where socialism under the British scheme that was found not to work very well is something familiar to them and they're accustomed to it. That's how he got in as mayor. And that should be a clarion call, a beacon. Look at this. This is what these clowns are talking about.
Mhm. So, okay, thank you for the translation, which is very important because, like I said, I agree with what he's saying, but there's always, you look at the other side of the coin, he's saying all that in detail, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points because of yeah.
You can go to jail, fool, if you don't get in line. You can play Tim Walz. You can play Mayor Bass. You can play, what does he call him?
The governor of
Governor
Baltimore.
Newscomb.
Yeah.
Newscomb. You can play this. You can play Chicago and the mayor they've got there. You can play Tish. You can play Fannie, but your ass is going to jail by the time this administration is over, which has just about 3 full years to go. That's
Right.
a lot of time to complete an investigation and return indictments with about a year left out. And by the way, don't get too mad at Pam Bondi about not returning indictments right now. If you really are serious about prosecuting something of this kind, then the nature of the beast requires very in-depth investigation, identification of witnesses, talking to them, getting understandings about whether we're going to go after you or you'll get immunity, and getting things in place so they can go in front of a grand jury. And under the federal criminal system, things move pretty fast. So you see half-ass prosecutions that the Biden administration initiated. I mean, it was lawfare, and the purpose was not to get convictions that would stay, but simply inconvenience somebody, wipe them out financially, so they were broke defending themselves, get broke defending themselves, and you can badmouth them in public. But if you want a conviction that will survive appeal, it takes a while to get the case together, and it's not going overnight.
So this guy down here, he is the police chief of Minneapolis. 2 weeks ago, a month ago, from the very beginning up until probably a little bit after Christmas, he basically said publicly, I am not going to instruct my officers to assist ICE agents.
Well,
Right.
there's a penalty for that. And one thing that can happen is the federal money gets cut off, and Trump, as the executive officer in charge of the dispensation, can do that. The other thing is you run into section 18 USC section 111 interfering with ICE. And there's another little thing too. Just about all 50 states, every police agency, they say that when you take office, you have to take an oath to not only follow the state constitution, but the Constitution of the United States of America. And what he's talking about not doing is, in fact, quite constitutional. So he's violating his own oath. I don't think he is sophisticated enough to know what the hell he's up to, but he could be indicted. See, so if he's going to instruct not to follow the law, then that runs you right straight up against 18 USC section 111.
I want to play this clip real quick.
Can't hear it.
Oh, let me reshare it. Sometimes that happens. Can you hear that?
I heard it sounded like somebody
Well, I've
was
seen the
taking
videos just as thousands of people around the country have, and the videos speak for themselves. I think it's deeply concerning, the things that are being said. This is an individual that was a city resident. It appears that he was present, exercising his First Amendment rights to record law enforcement activity, and also exercising his Second Amendment rights to lawfully be armed in a public space in the city. So I think very obviously there are serious questions that are being raised. And I think the greater issue is, even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point, because there is so much outrage and concern around what is happening in the city.
What do you mean it doesn't matter at this point? You mean the situation on the ground is already, the impression is left?
People have had enough. This is the third shooting now in less than 3 weeks. The Minneapolis Police Department went the entire year last year recovering about 900 guns from the street, arresting hundreds and hundreds of violent offenders, and we didn't shoot anyone. And now this is the second American citizen that's been killed. It's the third shooting within 3 weeks. People have been speaking out, saying that this was going to happen again. And I think everyone is kind of waiting for folks on both sides to come together and just figure this thing out. This is not sustainable. This police department has only 600 police officers. We are stretched incredibly thin. This is taking an enormous toll trying to manage all of this chaos on top of having to be the police department for a major city. It's too much.
The idiots who are responsible for your city cut your funding and cut your police agency as a response to the George Floyd situation. Let's not lose context. Next bloody doggone thing is in Minneapolis, they may be outraged, but a lot of America, I would suggest the majority of America, is outraged that somebody in this country is going all out on a limb, getting violent and disrupting public peace, dignity, and order on behalf of some criminals who trespassed into the United States, and a great number of them pose great danger. When we get our next 911, which is inevitable under the current circumstances, then I want to see the piper paid when the hell comes out that is now been unleashed on the American public through Al Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, Iran, North Korea, and all sorts of people that hate us that now have planted their explosive charges in various and sundry critical locations that they can detonate by military grade detonators without having to strap on the explosives and kill themselves in the process, or fly in an airplane to play kamikaze and crash into two towers. So
So,
now that's going to be a real live mess, and I do not look forward to what's going to happen because it will be awful.
well, I'm going to play this video here. He is the chief police of Chicago, and he has a 360 message regarding ICE, right? Because
180-degree thing.
100, okay, well, I
To
just said,
go back that way, 360 means you just turn around and go the same direction.
well, 360 meaning a completely different point of
Well, I
view.
mean, it would be 180 degrees. That's the way
Oh,
they do
so
it.
okay, doing a
360.
180. So for slang purposes, you say she's doing a 180 instead of a 360?
Yeah, that means
Oh.
in the exact opposite.
Oh, okay.
Has half a circle. In other words, a 360 means you just took a detour, but you're going in the same direction. That's like watch my six. If you watch your six, you're 180 degrees behind what's in front of you. In other words, watch my back.
Oh, okay. So 180. So
Yeah,
he's
180.
okay. So the first video, that was the police chief of Minneapolis. Again, he has been on the record saying that he's telling his people to stand down. But had he done his job to help assist ICE, Renee Good wouldn't have been shot because
No, probably not. I mean, it's a horrible situation. There are First Amendment considerations, but the main thing is the Supreme Court has held that borders are sacrosanct by ancient international tradition. The border is what a military is supposed to be protecting. Even though there may be a civilian agency charged with or actually in operation uh, to control the border, it is a matter of military significance because we have the United States Army, the United States Navy, the United States Marine Corps, the United States Air Force, the United States Space Force, and the United States Coast Guard. And what are they charged with? To maintain the integrity of the borders of the United States of America and keep all threats at a distance so they do not invade. And when you invade, what do? You penetrate the border. So we are to be protected. That is the purpose for the entirety of the U.S. Department of Defense or Department of War, depending upon whether you want to go back to the old phraseology, which seems to be the thing now. The Defense Department, the War Department is to protect our borders. It always has been. And when you start sitting there encouraging the violation of the borders, you are defeating the reason we have a War Department or a Defense Department. The whole panoply of the U.S. Army, the Air Force, the massive expenditure, the billions of dollars we pay on that is to protect our borders or keep our enemies at a safe distance. And here we have law enforcement, not necessarily this gentleman, but the other one, advocating the disruption, the subversion of the United States military and naval forces.
So let me play this clip.
Let me make this clear. Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger. Following law enforcement agents around. The question is why? What do you plan on doing? It's also reasonable for them to believe that you're eventually going to do harm to them. If you ram any vehicle, especially that one that contains law enforcement agents, and that's any law enforcement, local, state, federal, county, and you do this intentionally, this is considered deadly force. Deadly force is anything that can cause great bodily harm or death. When you plow into a vehicle that contains law enforcement agents, you're using deadly force. And they can use deadly force in response to stop you. We need to be clear about these laws. We cannot become a society where we just decide to take everything in our own hands and start to commit crimes against law enforcement. It is a crime. You may not like what they're doing. I can understand that there's a lot of emotions out there, but that does not mean that you get to commit a crime, especially one that could lead to deadly force. We need to keep everyone safe. Our responsibilities when it comes to federal agents, and I've been asked these questions, we do not interfere with the duties and responsibilities of federal agents.
Okay, amen. That needs to be publicized and carried as a special public service announcement on every major news network. That is a clear and concise statement of the law. And as far as people are going, protesting does not mean interference with the operation of the law. That is not protest. That is resistance. Now, there may be instances where somebody feels it's worth the risk to resist, but understand what may come back. It might not be pleasant. And again, we're talking about a situation where our border has been trespassed upon. And that's why we have the military. Now, one other thing here, this man has a lot of sense, and it is much greater than the idiot who is the mayor of this city.
Mm-hmm.
This is an expression of reality. Some people don't understand what they are about and what the rights of the law enforcement officer or of a civilian would be toward what they think is protest when it moves from representation of a position or expression of a position. We don't use them much these days, but we see them in the movies all the time. Think of a sword. Most people get the idea about self-defense that in order to have a right to defend yourself, somebody's got to run you through with your sword, with their sword, and before you die, you get to strike back. You don't have to wait till they stick you. You can block it, or better than blocking it, which might mean the reply, the repartee or riposte, that somebody comes back with your block or your guard, they run you through. So you can kill the guy before he tries to stick you if it looks like he's going to. You don't have to wait till you get stuck. And the problem comes in that under most law, even if you are mistaken, if from your perspective, it looks like somebody is going to attempt to run you through and you take action to prevent the need from blocking that from happening and just run him through first, hey, that's self-defense. In other words, even if you're mistaken, it's so long as it's an honest mistake or whatever, and that's from the position of the person who is in a high adrenaline situation. Now, the other thing is maybe somebody did not have the legal right as it developed from the particular circumstances in question of a given incident, but you still did. So general rule, keep your ass the hell out of the way when the police or law enforcement are doing their job. Video it if you want to. Turn in your complaints. Talk
Now
about it and see
explain.
your elected officials, but keep your ass the hell out the way.
Right. Now, I want to swing to Tim Walz here, right? Just real quick, I'm going to play this clip because I found this disturbing. A plaque from the Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers is being displayed in the Minneapolis state capitol, thanking Governor Tim Walz for allowing the spread of Satanism. Let me.
Mhm.
This is Representative P.M. Altendorf coming live at you from the Minnesota State Capitol. I am on the ground floor, and as I was leaving my committee meeting today here earlier, I noticed that there is a new display here at the State Capitol, and it's for Governor Walz. It's right here on display. So let me see. I mean, I guess I can't flip my phone, but I'll see if I can show it to you. This is what we have here, everyone. Let me read it to you. The Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers thanks Governor Tim Walz for not standing in the way of spreading Satanism in the state capitol building. Satan has a special place for you. That's right, everyone. So the Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers, they have given some sort of plaque here to Governor Tim Walz. So let me be the first, I guess, to congratulate Governor Tim Walz for this very special award that has come from the Satan Worshippers here in the Minnesota State Capitol. Yes, everyone, this is true. I am live, not making this up. You can't make this up. I don't know what else to say. I would think if you're Governor Tim Walz, you could choose not to have up this plaque. I don't know why a governor of a state would want this plaque, but there it is. Let me show you. Here we are live at the state capitol, and the Satan Worshippers have thanked Governor Tim Walz And let me repeat this, the last line says, Satan has a special place for you. I'm speechless.
Well, isn't it the Democratic thing to always say, look at these people, these hideous people that back Donald Trump and MAGA? Well, what do they have to say about this backing from this source? Remember, this guy was running as vice president of the United States just a heartbeat away from being commander in chief. So, it is what it is. So let's see, in my lifetime, I've had one, two vice presidents that took over because something happened to the president. One tricky dick, he resigned to avoid being impeached so he could get pardoned by the new appointee, Jerry Ford, who took over from, let's see, Spiro Agnew, who was vice president and got indicted and wound up serving time in, I believe it was Maryland and in the federal system. And then John F. Kennedy got blown away, and you have Lyndon Baines Johnson became the president. So these things happen, and it's
Well,
real.
they still got to deal with that fraud. President Trump just confirmed Minnesota fraud could be over $100 billion.
100 billion, good Lord.
Right.
And and see, it's like maybe a couple of hundred people stole $100 billion is like that's like 1/6, 1/7 of the Defense Department or the War Department's budget. That's a whole lot of money. That's more than the United States is spending on education.
Mhm. So
So
what else is this also came out of Minnesota as well. Um, ICE assistant director says his men spend hours confronting the 5-year-old child. The fake news keep lying was detained. Because I don't know if you've seen this. This happened last week that news media legacy news media, they were saying that ICE detained a 5-year-old just to get the father, to detain the father and deport the father. And he had the little boy's picture. I'm not going to show his picture. And so they did a press conference, the ICE assistant director, and basically saying, my officers, they did not detain a 5-year-old. So I just want to play this clip.
This week, ICRO conducted targeted enforcement operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien who was released back into the interior of the United States by the previous administration. When officers approached Conejo Arias, he and his child were in a vehicle. Arias fled from law enforcement on foot, abandoning his child in the middle of winter in a vehicle. One of our officers stayed behind with that child while other officers apprehended his father. After conducting the arrest, my officers stayed with the child. They cared for him, took him to get something to eat from a drive-through restaurant, and spent hours ensuring he was taken care of. Again, my officers did that, not his father. My officers did everything they could to reunite him with his family. Tragically, when we approached the door of his residence, the people inside refused to take him in and open the door. Let me say it again. They saw the young boy and they refused to open the door and take him back. This is the human side of the job that my officers do. They are family men and women. They have children of their own. They sacrifice everything for their families. I know for a fact that they were heartbroken to see the child's own family leave him behind. Fortunately, Conejo Arias eventually requested that his child stay with him. We do everything in our power not to separate families. So they took him back together to Minneapolis, here to the city, to the ICE facility for processing, and now they are being well cared for at a family residential center. pending their immigration proceedings. This is the real face of ICE, ERO, Border Patrol, and our allied partners.
Yeah.
See,
So
there's a little thing to this. It's like one time I sentenced some woman and she said, "What am I going to do about my children?" I said, "Ma'am, you should have thought about that before you committed this major felony that you have received a 20-year sentence in the penitentiary for. Now somebody's going to have to take your children." "Well, I don't have any relatives." "Well, you can't take them into the five of them into the penitentiary with you. You should have thought about that before you did your crime. You've been found guilty, and it's a situation you offered to plead guilty to a lesser included offense, but the offer was revoked because of some new developments. So it's not like you don't acknowledge that you did it. But you should have thought about that. It's not don't do the crime if you can't do the time and pay the fine. There's some other consequences too. So these people trespassed on, not these people, but so many trespassed on our border criminally and exposed us to great liability for collective harm. And of course, authorities have to take strong reaction to do something about it. And the bottom line is if we hadn't allowed several million people to crash our border, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. And
right.
if the Biden administration had kept track of the people that were coming in instead of just letting them walk across without checking them at all, we wouldn't be in this situation where we don't know who, but we have some national security concerns that are very important.
And again, so Tim Walz, he had
You mean favorite of Satan?
okay. He deployed the state National Guards, and so they're there, right? And I think he should have did this from the beginning, because the National Guards, they're handing out donuts and coffee to the protesters, and that eases the tension. Well,
They
why?
don't need to ease attention. That's bullshit. What they need to do is kick some goddamn ass. So you say, bring your ass out here. This is a matter of security for the United States of America. Bring your ass out here and start clowning around and acting like you're sympathetic to this mess. It ain't gonna be nice. That cut out a lot of this.
Let me play this.
But they try to be nice to everybody.
Donuts, hot chocolate.
What are you guys giving out?
Donuts, hot chocolate.
And you're with the Minnesota National
Yeah,
Guard?
we are. Yes, we are.
Why was this important for you guys to do today?
It's a demonstration of safety and security. We're here to help them.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's bullshit. They're breaking the law, and you want to go out there as a a military adjunct of the national security apparatus and say, we're going to give you coffee and donuts in the cold while you're doing this. Get your ass away or take the cold. You don't have to sit there and quasi-endorse it. This is just sick.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what happened before the Civil War when the South was going around consolidating its control over federal military and naval resources. And certain people were going, oh, take them, go right ahead. We understand you like slaves and they're good for the economics and your financial circumstances and your social structure. We understand. So go right ahead. We understand why you're going to do this. And then we got Fort Sumter, and the bloodiest war the United States has ever been in, where more people got killed or wounded than all of the rest of the wars we've been in combined. Oh, yeah. And it looks just like that, except I don't think it's going to be a shooting war, but it's going to be very, very nasty.
Did you see footage of the protesters last night? They were vandalizing a hotel on the outside, blowing their horns, because they're like, okay, so ICE agents are staying at this hotel. We're going to blow our horns. We're going to try to break down the front door to get in there. And they had to lock the front door so that the protesters won't come in. No police officers in sight. Hours later, police officers showed up to arrest they're not even protesters, you're disruptors at that point. So again, the National Guard handing out donuts and coffee, but why weren't you patrolling that area where the protesters were clearly vandalizing a hotel property.
It's, in other
There's
words,
other people there sleeping besides ICE agents. So,
in other words, it's no consequence rebellion. Actually, the Democrats were calling January 6, 2020 a rebellion. It wasn't. A rebellion doesn't consist of 180 people that are invited into a public building who commit minor or misdemeanor vandalism. But this is a rebellion without organized violence in terms of military force with people lined up with rifles or shotguns or pistols trying to do things that way. This is rebellion without consequence.
so Pam Bondi, she is going to be coming after Don Lemon.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I want to play this clip. AG Bondi.
His husband can bring him some fruitcake or something in if it is passes inspection when I'll put him some money on the commissary.
His commentary obviously in support of them. Does the fact that he claims to be an independent journalist, does that factor into the law at all?
Well, he's an online agitator. That's what he is now. And sure, if you're a journalist and you're covering a story, that's not what he was doing. We all know that. We have the video. It speaks for itself. He was in there with all these other people. If you were in there, if you protested and went into that church on the Sunday and you terrorized the parishioners, we are coming after you. That pastor is a wonderful man. I met with that pastor. Sean, these people were staged sitting in the church as well. Then they burst in through all doors, including Don Lemon, and started harassing and antagonizing and terrorizing these parishioners. A woman ran out the back door, scared to death, and broke her arm. We are coming after you if you participated in that. I don't care who you are. If you're a failed CNN journalist, you have no right to do that in this country. We don't live in a third world country. We're going to protect our houses of worship in this country.
Well, you know what's interesting about this? They've got this fool out there before the event, and it's clear that from what he's saying, the tone, the words, the context, that he is collaborating with them. So that takes it out of the way. And the other thing is I guess they're getting this from a new trend in journalism, which happened during the sand pile fracases for the last 26 years, where a journalist is embedded with a military unit. They used to call that being a war correspondent, where through a license granted to you by the military, you were allowed to go along with the troops or the ships and watch what was going on and report it.
So
Now,
Trump
what is he supposed to be? Embedded with the violators of the law, the rioters?
What Trump posted on Truth Social, appeals court finds evidence to charge Don Lemon over church protests, but won't force arrest warrant. So a federal appeals court concluded that the Justice Department has shown probable cause to charge former CNN anchor Don Lemon in connection with a protest inside a St. Paul, Minnesota church. But the court declined to order a lower court judge to sign the arrest warrants with prosecutors sought. The decision.
Well, that's a whole different thing. They can go find another magistrate.
The decision, unsealed Saturday by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit, came after the Justice Department asked the appeals court to overrule a Minnesota magistrate judge who refused to approve multiple arrest warrants related to the protests. So,
well, there's another way around it. You know what it is?
What?
Screw the arrest warrants on probable cause. Just go in front of a grand jury and get indictments. So that Mr. Lemon will be not going through the preliminary hearing phase that would have happened that way. The feds can just move directly in with indictments. The local district attorney or anybody impacted in that jurisdiction, if they want to go statewide, can go in and get an indictment. Probably they won't on a state level because just like the sheriff here, they want to get reelected because it's a nice job that they have. They can strut around in a uniform. They don't have to be out in the streets getting shot at like the deputies or going through brawls and getting their shirts ripped because they have to put somebody under control. And it's very dignified being the sheriff. It's very dignified being the attorney general. But take a look at one we pay a lot of attention to, Ms. Willis, down in Atlanta, Fulton County. Now, do you expect her to? Would you expect her to return indictments that was saying something that Trump's administration or MAGA was up to? No, they wouldn't. But that doesn't mean that the new U.S. attorney for the district can't get federal indictments, which is ramping it up a level, but it is what it is.
So I need everybody to hit the like button and share this video on all your social media outlets. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Like. Let's get the likes up. And if you would like to send in a donation, I have a goal. Please, if you have any questions or comments, send it via super chats. And I also have a goal up there. And I want you to give me give the judge some suggestions on topics to talk about to go up on the Patreon. So subscribe to the Patreon, like this stream, and share this stream, and donate. So I want to swing to Ilhan real quick, right? Before we talk about Alex.
Yeah.
Let me play this.
Republicans turning the heat up on Ilhan Omar. They want to know how she got all that money.
What your response is to the Oversight Committee launching an investigation into your net worth, you and your husband's net worth. They're claiming that it's risen rapidly. What's your response to what they're saying?
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. All right, Mr. Comer, you were in banking before politics, right? So she suddenly, in 1 year, after being worth a few $1,000s, is now worth $30 million. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, and the way the financial disclosure forms are, there's a big variation. But here's what we know: she went from zero to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year. Now, why is that relevant? First of all, I don't know many people that go from 0 to 30 without having a legitimate business. Her husband is in some type of finance business, but we don't know what it is. It doesn't appear to be private equity. Doesn't appear to be venture capital. So we just have questions. What exactly is the business that you're involved in? It was kind of like the same questions we asked Hunter Biden that he never could answer. But then, you know, she won't answer any questions. The Ethics Committee is supposed to investigate members. We're not supposed to investigate individual members, but this business is in her husband's name. So we can investigate her husband, and we are going to do that because we're, as you know, in the middle of this Minnesota welfare fraud. And there's been a lot of accusations about a circle of influential Somali Americans that are benefiting from these financial scams in Minnesota. Her name is on the list. Now, she's going to get due process. I don't know if she's guilty, but what I know is she went from 0 to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year, and she won't even answer a simple question like you saw there. What did you do?
I mean, it looks very suspicious when you have millions of this Somali cash just flying all over Minneapolis with no scrutiny whatsoever. Wasn't there also a vineyard involved here? The husband's involved in the wine business?
Yeah. You know, there's a thing called money laundering where people have businesses and they deposit, lots of cash. Again, I'm not accusing them of any wrongdoing, but she should answer a simple question. If any member of Congress is asked what business their family's involved in, I've never seen one fail to answer it. That's not a hard question. My husband has a private equity firm, and he's done exceptionally well in the last 12 months. She won't answer that question. And everybody in America suspects foul play here.
Right.
And again, we're going to find out. It's not going to be hard to figure out what business he's in and where the money came from. So that's going to be a central part of our entire Minnesota fraud investigation, because she is the leader in Congress, in the district, in the congressional district where the overwhelming majority of the welfare fraud is taking place. Her name, as well as the Attorney General Keith Ellison's name, have been mentioned as people of interest. I'll put it like that, Jesse. So we're gonna follow through on this, and I think she's gonna have some difficult questions to answer.
All right. Well, if Omar starts painting and selling those pieces of art, then I think we're on to something. Congressman, good to see you.
Let me say this. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, or I've lived here more than a half a century, and I've witnessed firsthand some of the worst corruption and public misconduct by elected and appointed officials is possible to encounter in the country. When you get this kind of thing and there's this widespread fraud, you can guarantee that there are elected and or appointed officials who have their hands in it, and they're getting under it, and they're getting something under the table. You can guarantee it. And I would say this, she has had for a few years a nice public salary, but it does not equate to getting $30 million in your assets within 2 years. Something is crooked here. And I would say that one of the problems that we have to deal with is when we start naturalizing people from certain other cultures where dash is ordinary and frequent, dash meaning a bribe. You're an official and you okay something, you expect to get a bribe. That's called dash, DASH. And she's from Somalia. It's rife over there. And by the way, did you do what I suggested you do? Take a look at Somalians as they generally appear and take a look at the ones we're looking at in Minnesota. They aren't typical, are they?
No, they're not. And I didn't watch the movie yet, but I'm going to, though.
Well, the movie's got a lot of real footage in it, and if you take a look at a typical Somalian, you'll find they do not look like the people who are the face of Somali culture in the Minnesota area. They are members of an elite caste, and they left because it got difficult. They had a people's revolution over there. And by the way, if just for the public's interest, take a look at Black Hawk Down. And it's interesting, the general that comes up with this misbegotten mission that turns into a disaster where a lot of American soldiers had to show great heroism to get out of. Some didn't, they died, and at least one CMH was Congressional Medal of Honor was received. The interesting thing is one of the officers on the general staff that planned this operation, which was to kidnap a Somalian warlord. That officer on the general staff was the son of the target of the kidnapping. His mother had immigrated from Somalia to the United States, and he grew up in Long Beach, California, and became a Marine officer. So it's interesting what you have going on.
Right. Well, Trump, he's saying it's a massive financial fraud cover-up that is going on. And Ilhan, the governor Tim Walz, the mayor of Minneapolis, the attorney general, they knew. The whistleblowers already testified in front of Congress. Tim Walz, and I believe the mayor as well, or the attorney general, they've been subpoenaed to come and speak in front of Congress in February. So it's two different things that's going on here that is major. ICE agents against the protesters trying to cause chaos, and ICE agents trying to do their job. So you have that, and then you have this massive billion plus dollar fraud going on in Minnesota, particularly Minneapolis, which is a major problem. So Trump posted this regarding Tim Walz, saying that Governor Tim Walz, and this was today, called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him, and that what we are looking for are any and all criminals that they'd have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We had such tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana, and virtually every other place that we have touched. And even in Minnesota, crime is way down, but both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. So it seemed like now Tim Walz is complying with the with the president. Is it because with this fraud that's going on, he's looking to make a deal?
They've made a deal. I'm in Memphis. He's mentioning Memphis. These crooked people here, these Democrats, appointed and elected, are making deals
to stay out of prison.
That's what it is. I know where the skeletons are. Hell, I know where the graveyards are, and I know what's going on around here.
So here's my question now. So now all of a sudden, these Democrat sanctuary cities, politicians, government, mayors, senators, whoever, they seen the light, and now they want to work with the administration. But these are also cities that have a massive billion-dollar fraud that's going on. California.
Yeah, there are also cities that are surrounded by a sea of red. They're blue little points. Like Tennessee is red. The only blue in the whole of Tennessee is in Memphis, and it's really just kind of a tinge of purple because everybody in this area is not Democratic. And most of the people here are very happy to have had the National Guard here, who weren't into this pass out coffee bullshit that you were looking at a little earlier. And the crime has gone down, but the Democratic Party filed an action against the governor, who is Republican, the attorney general, who is Republican, and the commander of the National Guard, a major general, who is a nominal Republican. And they'd rather have death and theft on the city streets than to do something about the problem. Basically, they don't have the competence or the heart to do anything about it because their reason for being elected is not administration. It's being adept at whining about being victims and stealing once you get in office after you bamboozle the public to think that you're actually doing something for them. Memphis has a long history of people that are known for being pro-black or pro-ordinary people. And when you get into what they were actually doing, they were sellouts who were bought off, and they just were encouraged to have loud mouths while they stole. They had too many babies on the side that this corrupt juvenile court was holding over them. White and black ones. They stole a lot of money. They embezzled a lot of money. They're con games, fraud, and all sort. There are several $100 million in the Memphis area that has been stolen from or in the process of being stolen from the people. So these characters worked out a deal. It's okay, but there are folk that aren't through with this.
Yeah. Well,
there will be hell to pay eventually.
Right. And just speaking of the corruption, Trump also posted on Truth Social during the 4 years of crooked Joe Biden and the Democrat failed leadership, tens of millions of illegal alien criminals poured into our country, including hundreds of thousands of convicted murderers, rapists, kidnappers, drug dealers, and terrorists. I won the election in a historic landslide, and Republicans won majority in both the House and the Senate in large part. But we pledged to seal the border, which we have done, and launched the largest mass deportation of illegal alien criminals in American history. This deportation effort is underway, and in Republican run cities and states, these operations are going peacefully and smoothly because local law enforcement officers are allowed to work with their federal counterparts. And he gave the examples: Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, and so forth. Meanwhile, the Democrat run sanctuary cities and states are refusing to cooperate with ICE, and they are actually encouraging left-wing agitators to unlawfully obstruct their operations to arrest the worst of the worst people. By doing this, Democrats are putting illegal alien criminals over everyone involved. Tragically, 2 American citizens have lost their lives as a result of this Democrat ensued chaos. And that's what I want to bring to your attention now, to go to Alex Preedy. I guess that's how you pronounce his name.
Let me put this in context, if I might. Our B-2 bomber force, the stealth bomber, the flying wing that Northrop makes or made, now to be supplemented by the B-21, which is an advancement on the design. The B-2 bomber is, by pretty good estimates, said to cost $1.75 billion per airplane. Now, what is that supposed to be for? B-52s, the youngest B-52 we have in our inventory, is going on 64 years old. One of them is unique because the original pilot of a certain serial number, B-52H, had his son as a pilot of that same serial number, B-52. His grandson was a pilot of that B-52, and now his great-grandson is a pilot of that same individual B-52 he flew when it was new. We don't have a replacement. The B-1 fleet, the Bones, they are very, very expensive, and they're wearing out. F-35s are very expensive. They are getting close to $100 million per airplane, or actually $125 million per airplane, and they get shot down because they are up close and personal combat devices. F-22s are about $150 million when
You
you
need to
get
go down
all the
the whole
equipment.
budget for the military.
I won't go down the whole thing, but that is what we are spending to do what I mentioned earlier: protect our borders. The point is rather than letting folk invade the borders, where we would have been if we were in Europe, where France is right up against Germany and they have a joint border, or Switzerland maintains its independence from everybody else because of mountains, but the Netherlands, Germany can go right through there, or the French can go back the other way. We have an Atlantic Ocean and a Pacific Ocean, and we have a military design. All this money, all this effort, trained all of these troops, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and Coast Guardsmen, and Space Forces. And we gave it away. We said, come on across the border. And Minneapolis is saying through its sheriff, we want to pass out coffee with the National Guard so we can make these folk feel comfortable, that embrace a lot of, as Trump put it, terrorists who've come in with nobody checking them to defeat this very expensive, very capable military.
So you saw the video of Alex Preedy being shot and killed by the ICE agents over the weekend, have you? Because
Yes, I've seen it.
And so there have been some people comparing the incident with this white man to Philando Castile. Um, because Philando Castile, 32-year-old black man, fatal shooting by police officer during a traffic stop in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. And it became a pivotal moment in the national conversation about police conduct and racial profiling. Are you familiar with the Philando Castile?
Yes, I am. All that stuff used to happen on a regular basis. I've eyeballed it quite a few times in my earlier life. Been, wow, right over there while it was going down. So I've
So
seen it, but the problem is it's no longer the same. And what you have is a circumstance that generates this mess. In other words, where somebody is trying to put something on a quasi-military or quasi-war footing, you can expect there to be casualties. The main solution is to back off what you're doing to ramp this tension up.
Mhm. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
how
So
you handle it.
here's the problem that I have because these protesters or these liberal lunatics, and I also say liberal lovers, they always want to compare or lump up black issues with their BS. So, because this is going around Alex and Philando, and it's like, no, these are two separate incidents to where Philando Castile, he shouldn't have been shot and killed. He wasn't interfering with ICE or any type of law enforcement. He wasn't being an agitator or nothing like that. And he did inform law enforcement that he did have a gun in his car and he was, complying, to whereas Alex Pretty, he was not complying. He was actually interfering with law enforcement.
The
So,
first instance, flat reprehensible. But this one, it's like when you bring your behind in a war zone, which is what you are setting up,
mhm.
shit happens. Now, I mean, my perspective on this is making a very detailed story very, very short. I was assisting a law professor at the time, who needed some law students to help him with a criminal case he was doing pro bono. We're talking to some witnesses, and without getting into the details of why the police got there, they were there. And one citizen whose car had been wrecked by a drunk driver that they were going to let go. This is LAPD, and it's been more than a half century ago. He was complaining about nothing was being done. Sergeant was there to oversee this whole thing. He pulled his gun out, said, "You want something to complain about? I'll give it to you." And in front of about 15 people, he put his Model 15 Smith 38 Special combat masterpiece up against this guy's shoulder and shot him. Bam! He said, "Now you got something to go. Come on, guys, let's go." And they left. We had to take the guy to the emergency room. Nothing happened out of it. Now, that's a whole different order of business than what you're looking at now. You have scared people, and you have people who are not tested in combat, which is why a bunch of veterans are more dangerous than raw recruits. They've been tested, and you find out who runs and who doesn't. And the people that might have been scared enough to run have gotten used to the idea, and they're a lot braver, and they've been vetted. So you get these war zone situations, and it can get real nasty real quick. But it does not match that kind of nonsense that I've eyeballed personally.
So somebody said in the chat, "Oh, ICE isn't law enforcement." Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. But you see, it's not really law enforcement. When you are protecting the border, that is a military function, not a police function. Now, it's not that the police don't handle these things. It's not that ICE is not a civil agency versus a military agency, but they are exercising a military function. As I have elaborated on today, the military is there to preserve the border.
Right.
That's what their big purpose is.
And you need to not interfere. If a woman is interfering, you as another protester like Alex did, you don't try and jump in the middle of her and the ICE agents. mind your business. And then he had a weapon on him. I think he did have a gun on him, but which you are allowed to
It's a tragedy, but
it's
the
a
tragedy
tragedy.
could have been averted by keep
Yes.
your ass away. What are you doing?
Right. And then stop comparing people situations like Philando Castile, who is no longer here, who did comply, to someone who did not comply.
And that wasn't a border situation. And see,
No, it
borders
was
are
not.
elastic. They don't just stop at the geographic outline of a nation. If somebody busts through them, they extend elastically into wherever you find them. Then you bring them back so you secure the border. What happened with Orlando Castile was not the same thing that happened here.
Right.
And by the way,
Mhm. Yes.
you can protest, but you go down to City Hall and do the protest. You don't try to surround people who, they're in a situation where I know a guy, he's a lawyer, pretty good lawyer. He practiced in front of me when I was on the bench. He was in a wheelchair. You know why he was in a wheelchair? Because he at one time was a sheriff's deputy and he was serving a civil warrant on somebody who turned out to be crazy. And the guy shot him through the door and paralyzed and turned him into a paraplegic. You see, that's what they face. They don't know whether they're going to be in that kind of circumstance. All they were doing was serving a civil warrant on somebody, a summons actually, and he wound up getting put in a wheelchair. See, this is what these guys are dealing with. So when you put yourself in a situation where you're protesting against, some people are laid back, cool, calm, and collected. Hell's coming down on them. And they're cool. Yeah, man, it's all right. Yeah, all right. And then some other folk, they're wound up nervous. So you put yourself in the situation, it's like, okay, you want to get out there and film? Stand across the street and get a telephoto lens and do it the right way.
Right. I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to bring in some.
Put your cell phone on the highest magnification, expanded with your fingers, and put it on a tripod or a support so you can steady it and stand off at a distance and record to your heart's content. Don't get up close and personal.
Right. So the legal aspect of pop culture stuff that's going on. And yes, we are going to bring up the Corey Holcomb because this what came up. I sent you the clip today. We don't gotta go into all deep elaboration, but from a
You mean the black hat, white hat thing we were talking about before?
Yes.
You told me not to get into it because of YouTube.
Right, no. I just want this is legal. This is your legal expertise, your legal commentary, your legal analyst, because you are a legal expert. So let me just do a little bit of
I'm
explain.
not giving anybody any legal advice. Don't rely on what I'm going to make as an observation. It's just to say I'm a law professor, but go ahead. All right.
All right. So, of course, it's been 2 weeks now with the Anton versus Corey Holcomb. And everybody, a lot of people on YouTube and mainstream media has been reporting on it. So,
but we got written up because we did.
Right.
I made a comment. I think the guy, isn't this the one where I said I think the guy in the black hat won?
Yes, but we're not talking about what happened.
We won't do that. But anyway.
Yeah. So, but we did another video talking about the legal aspect on if you talk about, a child, can you sue or whatever. That was that. So this is another legal situation now that involves Corey Holcomb. It has nothing to do with Anton, but it involves Corey Holcomb.
That's the guy in the white hat, right?
Yes. So
okay. All right.
He's a comedian. And this incident happened a year ago, but the video outside of the incident outside of a comedy club in LA resurfaced Friday, right? So I sent you this video, and I'm just going to play first 15 seconds because YouTube always picks on my channel, and then
Make it 14.
yeah, and so the woman here who's having the altercation or back and forth with Corey Holcomb, her name is Christina Payne. She was on Tasha K giving a full hour interview Friday. She was crying. She gave an interview to TMZ, and she was talking about the incident. Now, they went to court, and apparently this was thrown out, right? A year ago. And so, all right, let me just play this.
I'm on a time,
and she's doing something with her hands, cracking jokes or trying to crack on him or whatever. And then he walks towards her. This is at 14 seconds. And then she puts her hand in his face to the side, like pointing the fingers, like blah, blah, blah. And then he mushes her back.
Okay. Well, actually, that was 19 seconds, but anyway.
Yeah. So from your legal expertise, who's right, who's wrong? First of all, you should never let
There's
a woman.
a self-defense thing. There's a self-defense thing here, but it's a punk play to do that to a woman. It wasn't a lethal force situation. It's a classic assault, somebody putting you in a situation where you're apprehensive that they are about to commit an unpermitted touching, not in the sense of pleasantry. That's the classic common law definition of assault. The touching becomes a battery, hence assault and battery. So there is an assault situation here that he is defending against becoming a battery, but it's still a punk play. A guy shouldn't do that to a woman.
So when you walk up to someone, can that be taken as some type of threat?
Walk up on somebody, get into that personal space. Yeah, somebody starts intruding on it. It can be accepted as that. It's when a person has a belief, reasonable belief, or reasonable apprehension that they are about to be struck. You don't have to wait to be struck. You can prevent the strike. Not preventing the strike may be irrevocably fatal to the person who submits to the strike.
So when he walks towards her and she puts her finger, what women would be like.
Yeah, I know. It's a punk play. That's consistent with what I saw him doing the interaction with somebody else. He got up, moved over, and sat right up in the guy's face, but the guy didn't flinch, and the guy said, "If you want to step outside, let's go."
So he walked towards her, and when he walked towards her, she put her index like on the side, like what you want, something like that, and then he proceeded to mush her.
It's a blow.
So it's not a punch, even though it's an open hand.
It doesn't make a difference. It's a blow.
Okay. So again, he was wrong for even walking towards her.
Exactly. He is, in fact, encroaching on her personal space, which becomes aggressive toward her. Now, I understand that a judge dismissed the charges. Yeah.
But her touching him first by putting the finger, I guess, on the side.
Yeah.
Is that relevant?
But see, actually, she says the same thing. She can be attempting to resist his assault on her person. Now, the problem with the offense of assault is you have too many dummies in state legislative bodies that could not understand the difference between assault and battery. And they started calling what is in effect a battery an assault. So the two of them morphed into the same offense in most people's criminal laws. For example, it sounds technical, but let's say you walk up to somebody and say, "Oh, bam, hey man, Charlie, it's so good seeing you, man. It's been years." "I'm not Charlie. My name is Al." "Oh man, I'm sorry. You look just like a buddy of mine I went to high school with. I hadn't seen for 25 years. See, that's touching in the sense of pleasantry, so it is not a battery. But if you come up and let's say you got a 245-pound all pro linebacker that plays for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's got a big buck salary, and there is an 85-year-old frail woman that comes up, "Young man, I don't like what you're doing," and says she draws her hand back to hit him. He's not fearful because she can't hurt him, but he's apprehensive that there's an unpermitted touching that's about to occur. He can block, stop, or prevent the unpermitted touching. Now, the question of how much force is appropriate is another thing. But see, if you sit up there and you shove an 85-year-old woman who's 80-some-year-old woman who's 85 pounds, then that's a punk play. But, you know, it is what it is. So it's not clear cut. Now, that's still unmanly.
Right. I want to play what she's said here in this quick clip.
Flip totally about the truth and what happened. That you hit him. That's what now I'm hearing is word on the street that probably most likely. I mean, it is an assault. Yeah. And at the same time, there are witnesses who saw what happened, but he also has people who are willing to lie for him as well. Yeah. And is there camera at the Laugh Factory? There's cameras all over the Improv, and that is the footage that we're talking about. Footage shows Corey Holcomb reaching over two people and punching me out, and my whole head goes back, and it's a whole horrible whiplash thing. It's horrible. It's like he punches me at 30 miles an hour over the security guard and another person who is trying to keep him away from me. Right. So it's horrible. When you see it, when you see the footage, it's going to change your life. Why do you think he's lying? He doesn't want to get in trouble, / he just got put on a new tour. So of course there's money that is going to be made, and I guess he doesn't want to lose it. And then he's saying that I'm trying to, mess his career up or whatever, but it's like, where did this beef start? Like what? Where and when? Yeah. Well, and why? From 12 years ago is from when it initially started, when he wanted me to be his co-host on his radio show. And I flew out here to come meet with him, and he got me a hotel room and then was mad I didn't let him come upstairs, and he wanted to have sex. And I was like, no, sir, I'm sorry, I don't mess with married men. I'm sorry. So after that, he had nothing to do with me ever again. Years later, I'm doing comedy and succeeding, and now he's mad. Right. So last June, he jumped into my conversation I was having with another comedian in June, late June. He said, then I will super sock this. If anybody loves her, come get her. Take her away from me right now. So that was in June. He didn't finally hit me until December. Do you have witnesses? Yes. About him having that conversation? Yes. Are you going to bring those people in March? Knowing that the Laugh Factory has this footage, is he banned from the Laugh Factory? Well, it's the Improv who has the footage. I'm sorry, the Improv. Knowing the Improv has this footage, is he banned from the Improv? Yes, he's been banned from the Improv. And also, if anybody were to see any sightings of him, they're like, please report. Because he's been trespassed? Yes. By the police? Yes. So people are even like, if you have any sightings of him, please report, please. Now.
Okay, what she's talking about is essentially what we saw a version of in the video that I guess we got a warning about, even though we didn't say anything reprehensible, just a brief comment. They were being very graphic about their language, not her and him, but him and the guy in the black hat. He's got on a dark hat now, but he had on a white hat at the time. And he sat down in front of this man and said the same kind of things to the man that he said to the woman.
No, it was actually in reverse.
Reverse.
Well, yeah, the guy in the black hat, Anton, said perverted things to Corey.
Yeah, well, I mean, aside from that, the guy in the white hat, who is the one in the dark hat here, was threatening to whip him. And he said, all right, we can step outside. This is the guy in the black hat. He sat there and looked at him right in the eye, and he said, we can step out. And he didn't flinch from him. And he got up and walked, "Are you coming out?" And this
Yeah.
one back down. So, yeah, in other words, he pulled that play off with the language with this woman and wound up striking a blow against her, even though it was open-handed. Hell, I can knock somebody out with the palm of my hand. I love doing it. It's a good strike. Been taking martial arts for a very long time. Put a lot of power behind that you can't even get if you're using a straight fist strike. So,
So
yeah.
let's just read this here. It says, she's saying that this was back then when this took place. Christina filed a battery report with LAPD, but Corey was never arrested. And he attempted but failed to get a temporary restraining order against her, claiming Christina put hands on him first while his back was turned to her.
That doesn't get borne out by the video.
Right. And this is by TMZ.
But you know what you're listening at? This was what the law has been for a long time. The police can't arrest anybody for a misdemeanor not committed in their presence or without a warrant that has been issued by a magistrate. So, in other words, they have to go down there under oath and swear out a warrant that a magistrate approves as having established probable cause that a crime was committed. But they have modified this so much because of concerns about domestic violence that they have written a whole bunch of exceptions. Well, not a whole bunch, but a very few exceptions into the law that have sort of diminished it by saying, under these circumstances where there's a domestic relation, the police don't have to see the misdemeanor. They can arrest based on an accusation out there on the spot, which is not consistent with American law current.
Incident happened back in December of 2024, but the video is only just now resurfacing, which is why it says, which is why we wanted to see if this could change things for Christina or that case that was dismissed going forward. So can this?
No, it can't. Statute of limitations is 1 year on a misdemeanor. Is out.
So it's done. Whether this
It's
video
done deal. Just get over it. Start acting like you got some good sense. You gotta be.
So basically, whoever put this video out, they were basically just trying to do bad PR on Corey.
Yeah, well, whoever Corey is. This is the guy over here who's grinning.
Corey Holcomb, yeah. So the case can't be reopened. It's closed. It's done. But this is basically bad PR because, yeah, it could affect future proceeds with, maybe other comedy places. Or, well, we don't want that type of image. I don't know. But.
And it got us in trouble because in the confrontation, all I said was, I think the guy in the black hat won this one.
No, it wasn't that. And I don't want to talk about it. So leave it
We
alone.
won't talk about it, but they got on us for supposedly
talking about it by even saying what they got.
Yeah, that's censorship. We can't talk about it, but they can put the whole thing out and play it.
No, Judge, stop. We are going to talk about it, just not right now, because there are things that I'm doing behind the scenes. So please, just don't talk about it.
Okay, well, yeah.
Talk about it.
Censorship. But anyway.
Honestly, it's not even censorship. The problem that I'm having is the fact that it's good for you, but not good for that one. So again, we'll talk about it.
I got it. The inconsistencies. I won't go there. It's just I have a message I have for later on once this is resolved.
Right. So Okay, Pamela should be coming up soon, but
I'm a journalist, and I'm being repressed because I'm trying to bring this to the attention of the public. Wouldn't that be what Don Lemon would say or something like that?
so probably, but all right. So remember last week we talked about the fake.
Editorial commentary. But anyway, go ahead.
Last week we talked about the fake Black Panther party.
The attempt to resurrect it. Yeah, what now?
So they got a lot of backlash because they are fake and phony, and they're rebranding themselves. So
Actually, some of the things he said are not inconsistent with the positions of the original Panther Party, which was based on the Deacons for Defense and Justice coming out of Louds County, Louisiana. We had some people who served in the 761st Armored Battalion in World War II, and they were known as General Patton's Panthers. So the image that the Deacons for Defense and Justice used was the one that had been created for the 761st Armored Battalion, which was subsequently adopted by the original Panther Party. So interesting that the imagery goes back to the U.S. military for some real badass soldiers.
well, they got a lot of backlash because their whole thing is supporting and protecting illegals. So, but
I
now,
know that's like, really, come on now. That's not the mission of the
right.
current. That's not where you need to go. And the other thing is they were resurrecting old time communist phraseology and principles and talking points. It just doesn't.
So now they are rebranding themselves, and this is their official statement, right? Because now they're the Black Lion Panther for international solidarity. So I want to play this clip.
All power to the people. As everyone knows, I'm Paul Birdsong. I got a message from Aaron Dixon today saying that he no longer supports us. That after he gave me orders to make a video saying that him and other members were coming, that he withdrew his support. And that he said that this situation is unimportant to him, even though my comrades have risked their lives and spent thousands of hours of their time and dollars in life standing behind a cause. He said he's going to make a statement saying no one has the right to call himself a Black Panther going forward. I told him to make sure that he put in that statement that he did in fact give us the right to call ourselves that, because I still have the messages where he did, just in case he doesn't. And I put in there also, make sure that you put in there that Emory Douglas did give us the right to wear that emblem, because I still have the messages where that happened too. But as it stands, because of that, because of me and my comrades risking our lives and all the heat that we went under, because of the counter-revolutionary practices, because we don't believe in Black nationalism, like Bobby Seale said in the video that I shared on my page earlier, that Black nationalism is acquiesce to racism, and that we don't stand like that we're internationalists and intercommunalists, just like Huey Newton said. We will no longer identify with this flag. We will no longer identify ourselves as the Black Panther Party for self-defense. We're going to take OG from the town's advice. We're going to take the name that he decided to put out there. We're going to call ourselves the Black Lion. We'll stand with the immigrants. We will stand with the people being terrorized for ICE. We will stand with any oppressed people across the world. We will keep feeding every single day, keep offering food every single day. We will keep patrolling the community with guns. We will keep stopping drug dealers, keep stopping sex traffickers. We will keep stopping police brutality. This little plaque that I got, it says Paul Birdsong, and as a Panther, it says since 2020. I don't regret the work that I've done because it's brought me to this point. But going forward, these Panther patches will no longer be on my uniforms. Me and my comrades stand independent. We're willing to work with any organization that stands for the rights of every living person. Any organization that stands against imperialism, attacking immigrants. Now, if you're out here raping people and killing people and selling drugs and different stuff like that, yeah, deport them. But those people out there that are just working hard, trying to provide for their families, trying to escape the guerrilla warfare and the cartel warfare that's happening in their countries, to come for that promise of the American dream that the United States of America Incorporated lies about, we feel that they shouldn't be bothered, and we're willing to stand beside them to ensure that they're not. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Oh, January 31st, you can still come out. You know, we're willing to sit down and talk about solidarity, sit down and talk about unification, sit down and talk about continuing to work, because ain't nothing stopping this way. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
8 United States Code annotated section 1324.
What was that?
That's the one about giving aid, comfort, concealment, transportation of illegal aliens, and also 18 USC United States Code Section 111, that's interfering with the operation of federal agencies or agents charged with enforcing, et cetera, laws of the United States. So yeah, bright idea. And it sounds like, I mean, we called it adventurism. And it's not that I haven't encountered folk like that. Sounds like a young edition of Maulana Ron Karenga or some other people I knew. Huey P. Newton, maybe sometimes, but it didn't work out too well, except for Ron Karenga, who became an informant for, allegedly, for LAPD's SIS unit in the FBI, and started Kwanzaa as a means of getting black folk to talk freely so he could be more effective as a snitch. Those are the allegations.
Right.
But I mean, I may have certain personal knowledge of the circumstances, and they didn't like me and I didn't like them. So anyway, it
That's
is
what I'm
what
saying.
it
That's
is.
why I wanted to get your point of view, because coming up from that generation, that was your generation, Black
Well,
Panther.
I was more than just coming up for it.
No.
John Huggins.
No, this is what I'm saying. You can spot the BS and the
Yeah,
I'm
okay. Let me just say this so it said the right way. In those days, college campuses were much more receptive to free discussion of various and sundry ideas. I recruited Bunchy Carter, who was chairman of the Southern California branch of the Panther Party, to UCLA, John Huggins, who was the Minister of Information, Geronimo Pratt, who had done 3 tours in the NAM, Sergeant Pratt of the United States Army. He was a Green Beret, interesting person. I recruited him. Let's see. Elaine Brown, who wound up being no relation, who wound up being a female chairman of the Southern California chapter. Let's see. Shermont Banks, who had previously been the chairman of the Southern California edition of the Black Panther Party. Nathaniel Clark, who was involved, and a number of other people, Gwen Goodloe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We had many deep discussions about what was going on, and let's just put it this way, I don't think this ersatz resurrection of the concept is very true to it. So, yeah, nice try, but no plaque. And I'm wondering what they're really about, because I've heard this kind of thing before and it's not good, because typically somebody trying to play informant would try to bring in people. And these are the kind of things that just are not said by sane individuals publicly and on the record, because they give you one foot in the jail cell as it starts off by expressions of your intent when things get questionable.
All right. Our guest is here.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Let there be technology that actually works. I'm so sorry.
Bravo, madam. Bravo,
Hello,
bravo. You
sir.
are here.
Yes, sir.
So
Good to see y'all.
good to see you too. So reintroduce yourself to the audience because this is your second time being here. But let everyone know who you are and what you are doing.
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Pamela Denise Long. I go by Denise. This is my second time being here, so thank you for liking me enough to bring me back. I am running for Illinois U.S. Senator for the election that's happening March of 2026. So just 6 weeks from now, roughly. I am living in downstate Illinois, although I've lived all over the state as well as all over the country, New York, Dallas, and Mississippi, and many points in between. I am running because there is so much craziness that is happening, so much division, so many ideas that seem immoral and blatantly wrong to me, including all the DEI nonsense and the way that people currently do it, as well as border security, national security issues. And I think people being afraid to speak truth to power. And we're going to lose our country if we don't get our stuff together.
Mm-hmm. 1 second.
Did we lose the judge?
Here you go.
I just got a thing that said, oops, connection lost, attempting to reestablish in a yellow banner. Every time it gets interesting, that's happened. But go ahead, I get the gist of it.
So
you're trying, in other words, you're doing what Barack Obama did, but from the reds instead of the blue. He was somebody that came from nowhere. You're not from nowhere, but he came from nowhere, and he managed to become U.S. Senator for the state of Illinois. But hopefully your opponent won't die on you like his did on him that got him elected.
Or maybe, well, I don't want to put death on someone, but
no, I mean, seriously, he got elected to the state legislative body, and his opponent died before the election hit. And then when he ran for U.S. Senator, his opponent died before the election came about.
Okay, but let's just say that happened with Pamela. At least it'd be a good person in that position as opposed to Barack Obama, who was just a grifter. You get what I'm saying?
I got you. I'm saying your qualifications are better than his.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Barack was backed by a lot of money. People often say
Goldman Sachs, a whole lot of Goldman Sachs. They brought him to New York and they feted him. And the Heritage, you might want to know this, the Heritage Foundation voted him the third most conservative voting senator in the U.S. Senate, even though he had the lowest voting record. He got a 96% conservative ranking. The next person in the second position got a 96 plus, and the number one person got a 97 rating. So he came across, he was a fake. He was letting everybody think he was all this and that Democratic liberal, but he wasn't. He was just an opportunist who was in it for business. He and George Walker Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, Dick Cheney, Sarah Palin, and Uncle Herbie Walker were all blood kin relatives, and his grandfather was first cousin to President George Herbert Walker Bush. And they were pushing big oil through his stepfather, Lolo Soetoro, who was the Indonesian oil baron, and George Herbert Walker Bush said Zapata Oil, and Uncle Herbie founded Halliburton. So it was a cabal, and you at least have the integrity not to be part of a big economic crime family.
Nor a small
And
one.
you were an honest person trying to deal with bringing representation to the public. I love it.
Well stated. I love it. Yeah, no crime family, none of that. I am just trying to stand on constitutional leadership and make sure that every Illinoisan and every American is represented. So lowering the cost of health insurance, that is not solved by any stretch of the imagination. Children's health insurance will be up for reauthorization in 2027. And if they agree to extend these enhanced subsidies for another 3 years, that will be right back where we were. So that I'll need to start working on as soon as I'm sworn in, because it seems like we're caught by surprise that legislation comes up for reauthorization, and we have to do a better job of project management. We're going to have a lot of trade agreements and treaties that frankly need to be revisited with the way the president is attempting to reconstruct the economy and place Americans first in doing that. So I'm looking forward to the task.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted you to come back on, because I follow you on X, and I don't know, maybe you sent it to me or somebody else sent it to me, but I saw your reply to what Pete has said. He made an announcement, and it's about a 8A program. So I'm gonna play his announcement clip.
Okay.
And then we could talk about it, because some people may agree or disagree, but I think it's an important discussion to have right now. What is this? Okay, here we go.
When President Trump appointed me as your Secretary of War, I made you a series of promises. I promised that every single one of your taxpayer dollars would go toward one thing and one thing only: building the most lethal fighting force on the planet. And I promised we would gut the corruptive, unconstitutional, non-merit-based DEI programs that have weakened our military and distracted us from our primary mission. And I promised we would hunt down the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that has run rampant in this department for decades, and to instead redirect that money to President Trump's America First priorities. Well, today, we are once again taking action on these promises. We're actually taking a sledgehammer to the oldest DEI program in the federal government, a program few people outside of Washington have ever heard of, that I hadn't heard of. It's called the 8A program. Now, if you're like me, you're asking yourself, what is an 8A? It's a great question. 8A refers to the Small Business Administration's program to assist, quote, small, disadvantaged businesses owned by a socially disadvantaged individual or tribe, end quote. Providing these small businesses with opportunities is a laudable goal. But over the decades, as it happens, the 8A program has morphed into swamp code words for DEI, race-based contracting. And here's the worst part. In many, many instances, these socially disadvantaged businesses, they don't even do work. They take a 10%, 20%, sometimes 50% fee off the top, and then pass the contract off to a giant consulting firm, commonly known as Beltway bandits. For decades, this program, 8A, has been a breeding ground for fraud, and this administration is finally doing something about it. The Department of Justice, under Attorney General Pam Bondi, recently exposed $500 million in 8A fraud. Treasury, led by Secretary Bessent, found another $250 million, and their investigation is just beginning. Treasury, Justice, and the Small Business Administration under Administrator Loeffler are all actively investigating their 8A contracts right now. Now, in the Pentagon, $100 million sole source contracts go out the door to these 8A firms almost every day. $100 million sole source contracts go out our door to these 8A firms almost every day, without any competition or opportunity for anyone else to bid. The Department of War is required by law to do almost $100 billion worth of contracts per year with small businesses, including 8A firms. Seems 8A is quite important. But we're not required to pay enormous brokerage fees, only to have these firms pass those contracts along to giant consulting companies, and we won't. We're not doing this anymore. So effective immediately, I'm ordering a line-by-line review of every small business sole source 8A contract that is over $20 million. And we'll look at everything smaller than that too. The Department of War has the biggest chunk of 8A spending by far, 10 times more than any other agency. So our cleanup, it's going to be 10 times tougher. It's a two-stage mission. First, if a contract doesn't make us more lethal, it's gone. We have no room in our budget for wasteful DEI contracts that don't help us win wars, period, full stop. Second, we're doing away with these pass-through schemes. We'll make sure that every small business getting a contract is the one actually doing the work, and not just some shell company funneling your money to a giant consulting firm. This approach is, of course, not meant to hurt small businesses, and that's not the point. America is full of great, amazing small businesses. This is part of a larger effort to transform our acquisition ecosystem into one that makes sense for the threats we face in the 21st century. I gave a long speech about this back in November. Our goal is to spend your money to build our defense industrial base with businesses large and small that share our mission, not to line the pockets of Beltway fraudsters or to advance the agenda of DEI apologists. Only lethality, and we're going to look at every single contract.
So you also replied, you said, meanwhile, it says here, and you put a clip, the U.S. Department of Commerce, through its Minority Business Development Agency, signed a memorandum of understanding, MOU, in January of 2025 with the Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce to recognize Jewish-owned businesses as minority business enterprises, MBEs, granting them access to federal programs, contract loans, and grants previously unavailable, aiming to correct a longstanding oversight and support for this significant minority group. This historic agreement opens doors for Jewish entrepreneurs to compete for federal resources and economic opportunities, acknowledging their unique challenges despite being a minority population. Parties involved, MBDA, part of the Commerce Department, and the Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce, signed January 13th to the 14th, 2025, purpose to provide global markets. Marks the first time Jewish businesses are formally recognized as MBEs, allowing them to tap into billions in federal support. So is this so what is your issue with this? Because I actually, let me just share this here. I went and I looked up, I went to the website of the SBA, and it says Small Business Administration suspended 1,000 companies in the AA program. SBA made the decision after it deemed those small business non-compliant with its federal data request from December. Suspended firms have 45 days to appeal the suspension. SBA will release further information on suspension in the coming days. Suspicion comes as SBA sent a letter to more than 4,300 firms in December seeking 13 different data, ranging from the list of companies' employees to bank statements for the last 3 fiscal years, to a copy of all AA contracts. So basically, they're saying we're going to suspend your contract with the 8A program if you don't give us big statements from the last 3 years, basically. Because I guess there's a lot of fraud going on. And it says SBA issues clarifying guidance that race-based discrimination is not tolerated.
Yeah, so let's provide some context to all of this. These so-called minority programs were very much designed at the time to undergird Black American capitalism. Everybody and their mama has been shoehorned into it, including white women. And because of a federal judicial ruling from, I think, 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, from the MBDA, which was expressly designed for Black American and Hispanic business development, they decided white people needed to be included in it because it was deemed a race-based program. So I'm definitely for the auditing of all of it, because everybody who does contracting knows that these prime contractors will find a minority firm with 51%, right? Minority, which is broadly defined as anyone who is not Anglo at this point, right? You white Hispanic, you're a minority. So a white person who speaks Spanish, basically, you're a minority. So I'm for the auditing, I'm for the efficiency and effectiveness. However, I think it is hypocritical for the administration to talk about being another shoehorning into what was supposed to be designed for a lineage group, right? I'm curious to know why Jewish businesses hadn't been considered minority businesses before. Could it be because, by and large, when you look at per capita, the wealth for the Jewish people is much more than the wealth for the Black American population that it was supposed to be designed for? So, if the Trump administration is trying to do away with race-based programming, then they need to not be shoehorning everyone into those legacy programs that were designed for Black Americans. They need to be returning to a lineage-based, injury-based program rather than compounding the fact that those things that were designed for us are going to everybody, including people who generally have more wealth than we do. And I would definitely say the Jewish population fits that description of having more than us. So why put them in our stuff?
Perhaps what's going on is bureaucracies being what they are. Everyone is not privy to what they're up to. You're at the top. You may not be aware of something that is being done in lower echelons of departments you may be over. So you have to find a way to get that information to you. And like, what's Goldman Sachs, by the way? When you start including the ethnicity or the characteristics of the demographic as the qualifying parameters, you get a problem when you don't deal with it being ethnically neutral. See, if you start talking about they're entitled to it because they're Jewish, then you start having to get into why, because you start running out of objective reasons to include somebody as a result of economic status or privation. That particular ethnic group is definitely not deprived of a circumstance, and it's a big problem. For example, outside of the government thing, CBS was sponsoring a certain Negro who got a lot of Black support from elected officials and the Black public because they thought he was going to set up a Black network. He wasn't. He was just going to do reruns. And the fact of the matter was, CBS was behind him because CBS had a contract with Fox that said they couldn't go through directly to cable unless it was through a minority. Otherwise, they had to subcontract with Fox, and that was bad. People, a new network, when it wasn't the case, it was just the CBS front. So what you described is a long going thing, and it used to be a hustle that was discussed way back 50 years ago in the very early 70s when people were getting out of college and had bright ideas as to what to do. Some of us said you're going to run into a mess eventually if it's not race neutral or ethnically neutral. So some people still haven't learned, and that becomes discrimination that does not have a compensatory reason. So it's going to require some adjustment, and maybe somebody needs to bring that to the attention of the executive branch.
Yeah, happy to do that at any point in time. But people need to realize, per the June 2023 affirmative action ruling, uh, programs that prioritize exclusively or primarily and or exclusively legacy Black Americans survive strict scrutiny when the program is attempting to redress the harms that we're experiencing. The conservative justices, all of them, including Clarence Thomas, reiterated that fact. So to make these programs race-based, as if is wrong to make it about us for the hundreds of years and multiple generations of deprivations we've experienced can survive strict scrutiny. And the conservative justices said just that. So I want to read this just to provide some
Well,
evidence.
in other words, the ruling very simply is it's supposed to be remedial, undoing some specific harm done to a group that was calculated harm or whatever. Clarence Thomas, by the way, went to Yale, and he was the last person admitted in his first year of law school. And he was admitted under a minority special admission program. I know that because they were trying to recruit me the year before to that program.
Gotcha. So listen to this. One 2013 to 2015 survey indicated a median annual income for Jewish households around $129,000. That's median, right? So 50% made less, 50% made more. While Black households were listed as a median of $35,000. So 50% made more, 50% made less. That's significant. So to have Black Americans competing with people whose household income is already what, 3 to 4 times ours is grossly unfair. And to have people, because the measure, like you said, of remediation is not there. And if there are some specific concerns around Jewish deprivation, then that needs to be taken care of separately from shoehorning more people into minority set-asides. And if the administration, again, if the administration is keen on rightly getting away with the racial grift of people putting up some shill Black person company while the white person or whoever is really benefiting from it, great, do that. Look at all companies, right? Because surely these little 8A companies ain't the only ones that this grift is happening to. Surely it's not just the minority programs where people are thieving and stealing from the United States government. So make even your dojing race neutral. Look at everything. 8A is a great place to start, particularly if you're going to return it to original intent. MBDA is a great place to start, particularly if you're going to return it to a lineage-based, injury-based intent for Black Americans.
Also, dealing with the War Department, some of the contracts that they're angling to knock out had to do with such things as coming up with a skirt that might appeal to transsexuals who were trying to be female as an alternative to the trousered uniform that males usually wore for the U.S. military. Such things as that need to be cut out.
Yeah.
But
men
another thing I would ask you to look into is the definition of Hispanic being something other than language uses. They need that. My late stepmother was Chinese in extraction, but because she was from the Philippines and spoke Hablar Español muy bien, she was classified as Hispanic. And something needs to be done definitely about that ethnic group where you fill out a federal form and the first block says Hispanic, non-Hispanic.
Yeah.
If you're non-Hispanic, you have to fill out white or Caucasian, Black or African American, and then the whole laundry list of various ethnicities in the United States. But if you say Hispanic, you pass over that. Now, personally, I think that's offensive because it builds up a falsely large ethnic group. And for example, I have a good friend, used to be my tailor. Everything I wore from suits to shirts was custom made. She's classified as Hispanic because her family, or she's from Argentina. She hablas español muy bien. But her parents were from Nazi Germany and they fled at the end of World War II to Argentina. So she's blonde haired, blue eyed, and of Germanic extraction for multiple generations.
Well,
Adolf and the boys would have loved her, but she's classified as Hispanic.
Let me add this in too, because I would say the same thing that when you have the box for African American, no, I think we need our own separate box because Black immigrants are lumped in with us, right? And so it's that the whole philosophy that you just explained about Hispanics that needs to be altered. So does Black people. That
Well,
African American thing
that
needs.
that's kind of taken care of itself, because on the forms in question, I was looking at a copy of it online here. Say for purchasing a firearm, it asks you in a set of questions: Are you a naturalized citizen, et cetera, et cetera? What is your point of origin? And that is before you get to this category of are you Hispanic, non-Hispanic? And if you say non-Hispanic and you have to figure it, it's specifically directed toward Black Americans, because nobody in that category is to be included if you are a naturalized citizen. That's separate from your circumstances. So
Even if you're a naturalized citizen, we have citizenship through constitutional amendment, right? Nobody who doesn't have that, who wasn't here when that happened, right? A descendant. If your ancestors weren't here to receive that citizenship through the Reconstruction era amendment at that time, you should not be collected in data collection along with us. You should identify by your country of origin. Now, there may be something we can do for people who immigrated here in the 1900s and they preceded the 1965 not Johnson Reed, but the Hart-Celler Act. There might be something special we can do for that because they endured some of the discrimination as well, though they willfully came here. But I agree that we should have a separate category that should keep track of us in particular. And of course, in 2023 or thereabouts, we did a lot of that work. 22-23 of advising the White House Office of Management and Budget under Joe Biden about how those of us who are legacy Black Americans wanted that protected class status and to differentiate ourselves from Black immigrants. And the concern of the people who listened to that in the OMB basically said that they want African American and Black to encompass everybody. So they weren't
It's
keen.
funny that you brought that up because the OMB also they also created Middle Easterns. They have their own separate
Gina.
boxes now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They advocated for it for years, and that's how they got it. Yep.
Right. And it seemed like, but when it's us, we have a lot of Native Black Americans fighting to include the Africans and everybody else who looks Black in our. So, but I for the same reason, Hispanics need to be clarified. Middle Eastern and them need to be clarified. We need separate boxes to be clarified separately. But I want to swing it back to the 8A.
Can I say this before you do that? Hispanics have, during this OMB advisement, they wanted to collapse race and ethnicity for the very reasons that the judge eloquently put together. That cannot happen. And if it does happen, then they need to be removed out of the minority status. The only reason a Hispanic person should be included as a minority in the United States is if they originate from, honestly, I can't even think of a reason, because in 1848, with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, Mexicans, which is the predominant Hispanic population in the United States, they've been white by treaty. So they didn't go through Jim Crow, although they're trying to construct this Juan Crow narrative. Although, of course, there were Anglo-white people who were like, y'all ain't white, just like Italians weren't and Jews weren't and whatnot. But they didn't experience the same things that we have. So I honestly can't even think of a real justification for them to be competing with us for anything in the first place. And you're a new arrival here from any country shouldn't confer to you any special dispensations, and certainly should not have us splitting our little bit of pie that we get with you for you not having been here. That should not be our problem, that you're new to the country.
may I suggest that it's political? For example, I'm in Tennessee right now because I had what was known as a Reginald Herbert Smith Community Lawyer Fellowship. It was operated out of Howard University, and we dealt with poverty law. I got sent here. I was supposed to stay in Los Angeles, but President Richard Nixon reached an agreement with Hispanic representatives to restrict assignment of those who were getting the federally funded Reggies, they called them, in California that was reserved for Hispanics, and it cut off just when I was about to get in it. So you were told you had a choice: either you didn't get it, or you would accept going out of state to someplace else for 6 months before you could go back to California. So I did that one. I got sent to Tennessee. But when I got sent to Tennessee, they sent out an advisement that on further negotiations, you couldn't come back for the 2 years. So I got stuck here in Tennessee, and I've been here the last 53 or 4 years after that.
Right.
So, I
I'm
mean,
gonna,
it
I'm
was
gonna,
all of this is a political thing, and it builds up, see, a body of people that supported the Democratic Party. Now, Los Angeles,
wait,
California,
let me wait,
California.
stop for a
Yeah.
second. I need to bring this in because we're short on time here. I want to go back to the 8A contract, right? That conversation. So I was doing a little bit of research and I wanted to see, who was getting what, how much of the contracts, who was getting awarded, and Black Americans were getting awarded these 8A contracts at the most at 28%. Then came the subcontinent Asian American 21.8%, Hispanic American 21%, Asian Pacific American 12%, other American 10%, Native American 6.3%, right? I don't think this is including white. This is just minorities, right? Breaking down the minorities. So
Well, it's
Black,
not Anglo anyway, because white Hispanic is a real thing.
right. It says Hispanic American, so I'm just going to assume non-white Hispanic.
And you
No, you can't do that because there is no such category under the American system. It is Hispanic, and it includes Black people, Asian people, Native American people, people from Spain, white Europeans, one generation removed from being
But
in South America, and
right, there
it
are
really includes everybody.
right, but there are applications that says Hispanic non-white.
because it's ethnicity and then you choose race, and the point being made is Mexicans have been legally white since 1848, right?
And if they choose, right, so they actually have an option to actually check off white if they choose to.
Right.
Just like Egyptians that come here, they could actually check off white if they choose to as well, or bounce back and forth. But anyway, Black Americans, 28% of the AA contract dollars.
And
right?
that means Black. That does not, they don't differentiate by lineage. So that we don't
Right.
even know how many of that is actually us.
Exactly.
See, yeah, that's the problem. They don't. But you see, when you get into white, non-white, you run into like one of the biggest, most influential ethnic groups in the United States are the Irish. Irish were considered non-white until a joint act of Congress, House and Senate, in 1877 issued a declaration that henceforth they would be considered white. They were not before that. That was out of recognition for their heroic services to the North and South during the American Civil War. I went to school in Los Angeles, and I remember my fourth grade teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, who I still detest and despise. She used to have us sit down. Boys and girls, you must understand there's a difference between the Mexican population and Hispanics. There are mestizos, mulattos, negros, et cetera, and she ran it down. But my husband and I, we are classified as white because we are straight from Spain, from Hispania. And I listened to this nonsense for a whole year in the fourth grade, for 12 months interspersed with the vacation periods of this garbage of somebody breaking this stuff down. The woman was a horrible teacher.
All right. So
But that was a reality amongst themselves. And one last point, the sheriff of LA County for years, decades, was Eugene Biscaluz, a Spaniard, they called it, Mexican. And in California and other places like Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, You did not have a discrimination based on just your ethnicity as somebody who was Hispanic. You had discrimination based on what your racial ethnicity was, with this Hispanic thing not being counted because white Spaniards, white Mexicans were classified as Caucasians, and they ran politics in some places, but they were treated as white, not Hispanic, just because you had a Hispanic last name, Rodriguez, whatever it may be, or Gonzalez, did not mean that you were not treated as white, because this thing they have now where they've evaporated the ethnicity relative to race or mixture is a relatively new thing.
All right, so I want to swing it back to the 8A program because Pete Hegseth, he said in that video that they're going after the frauds, a lot of fraud, and I believe it.
Oh, for sure. It's
But
everywhere.
right. So I think people get uncomfortable or up in arms. Oh, he's dismantling, these programs that's meant for minorities, that's helping Black businesses. And it's like, no, because again, like that chart, 28% of these contracts did go to Black businesses that was under the Biden administration. But how much of fraud, how much of these contracts were actually part of some type of fraudulent business, right?
For
And
everybody,
yeah, for everybody. So it's a couple of things going on here because you highlighted it's like, okay, the Trump administration, you want to get rid of DEI and let it be on merit and not race, right? Or a particular group. It's just everyone should just be, just everyone should be on merit equally. But you usher in the Orthodox Jewish community specifically. So it's like a contradiction that's going on.
Exactly.
And so that's one. And then two, I do understand and agree with go after the fraud and implement,
Absolutely.
things to see, okay, let's see your books, let's see the bank statements. But you're contradicting yourself at the same time.
Yeah, because you're going after 8A why aren't you looking at so-called legitimate companies as well? Like there's plenty there's plenty of contracts that happen through the military. We should look at all of them to see if there's been waste, fraud, and abuse. How about taking a look at nepotism? Who knows who and who's getting money? That's not merit, right? Even though they're not minorities, it's just regular, businesses that we used to naming them when it comes to military stuff. Look at them as well. So good point that your auditing seems to be leaning toward race and DEI. So it's a reverse DEI sort of discriminatory auditing when you should be looking at everybody. But of course, implement efficiency and effectiveness to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, but do it overall.
Right.
And above all else, our merit, being a descendant of the founding Black population, is merit enough.
Yes.
It is. Given what has been promised, what has been done to our people, and what has been promised to our people, it is merit enough. It is just a matter of how do we go about eliminating all this extra grifting that people do who fly over here tomorrow and suddenly they become a minority and get special dispensation when they've contributed no equity, no building, no blood, no bones to this nation. And I don't think there's anything pathologically DEI about that. It's truly the Reconstruction post-Civil War social contract is to make that right. The quadrillions of dollars that have been extracted from our families. You've given it to everybody else. White women have become massively enfranchised by affirmative action and what one would call exactly. So white men set up the stuff and they help their mothers and daughters and sisters enfranchised from it, and Black Americans, the people to whom it was originally promised because we endured the extractions, benefit from it least. Black immigrants benefit most from affirmative action as well. Make it make sense that a descendant of a slave trader in Africa can fly over here and benefit from what our families endured and what the nation promised to us because of what their ancestors did. That makes no sense to me.
So
May I ask you a question?
Judge, 1 second. because I know you're short on time and you have a meeting. So I do want to wrap this up because I don't want, and you have a busy day.
Yes, ma'am. I have to be done by 5.
And that's 15 minutes, but I'm not trying to be up here for the next 15 minutes. So, Judge, whatever you want to say, just make it short because I need to let her go.
A question I was going to ask you. Really, I mean, never mind. I'll pass on it. It was just a
You want to text me
technical
about
thing.
it?
No, I don't need to.
Okay.
It's just that, isn't there a danger that this may once again be just another avenue to insidiously sneak in a dependency again? You
So
know,
here's my thought. These programs have to be structured in a way that have off ramps. They have to be structured in a way with lineage-based programs that develop capacity and have off ramps to them. So it's not like somebody is getting a check necessarily from MBDA every month. You're delivering a service, and per the auditing requirements, you need to be doing actual work in the delivery of that service. It's any other business purchasing agreement, procurement, where you're actually fulfilling a contract. So I don't think that's dependency. I think that is certainly getting a special set aside because of what has happened to you and what was promised, but has been given to everybody else. But in exchange for that, you are doing a service to fill a need. I don't think that's dependency at all.
I'm just concerned about somebody getting a check and sitting back and doing nothing. It might be reparative, or it might be restorative, but I saw this develop personally. I was a grown man when it started, able to vote by whiskey, and I saw the dependency that has grown over the last 50 years amongst the black population of this country because people said they are
Yeah, I will say that with every population, you will have people who struggle with the idea of making ends meet by the sweat of their brow. There are plenty of white folks who are gaming the disability system today, as well as the welfare system today. That's not a uniquely racial thing. I think we certainly have to motivate people to earn your own food, but you don't deprive a whole population what is rightly, I will say rightly due to them because of a few bad actors.
Right.
He's having tech issues. Oh, now it's his turn. It was my turn the last couple days.
He's always having tech issues. Yeah, can you hear us?
I hear you now. It's interesting that I always get cut off at these
Yeah,
moments.
well, we had to start. We got to wind it down.
I know, but I'm just saying it was interesting to get cut off at these moments. What I was going to say is I've just seen this thing where, for the best reparative purposes, minorities, particularly black folk, get reduced to a state of dependency with what comes out of it because there are no conditions that the assistance be used for self improvement or for restorative purposes. It's just, okay, you're like one of our pets. We take care of you, feed you your kibbles and bits, see that you get your shots in some place to stay, and you get walked and exercised appropriately with
Yeah.
that last part cut out.
Yeah, no, I did address it because I knew where you were going with it. And I basically, to summarize, it's not just the Black community where people struggle to make ends meet by the sweat of their brow. And there are ways in which to design programs. And this is from an MBDA and an 8A standpoint. This is a procurement arrangement where you are delivering a service. And if we're purchasing something from someone, then we need to make sure whoever it is actually doing the work to deliver it.
Right. Because
You're talking about these contracts, yes.
Yeah.
Right. So, and because we already have over $100 billion fraud going on in Minnesota, and they are not Black Americans. So again, if we're talking about restitution, reparations for descendants of slaves, foundational Black Americans, freedmen. I don't want to hear no one from any background and in any gender questioning what we're going to do with the check, because all you other people out there, whether it's nepotism, whether these refugees, these immigrants, Anglo-Saxons, you have been defrauding this government for centuries and continue to do so. And we are not the highest population receiving social services, i.e. welfare. So that's a dead talking point when people try to belittle what we going to do with the money. Forget all that. That's not even a conversation.
Or where the money coming from, right? Because we got money trees shaking all over the place. And I know plenty of Black Americans whose families wouldn't even allow them to get on welfare.
Right, exactly. So listen, we got to have you come back.
Thank you.
Now, personally, as a disclaimer, I think anytime you're getting federal money, you need to account for what you're doing with it.
100%. I agree across the board. And I hope that with the DOGE efforts that the Trump administration is doing, they are right to do that. Make sure that you are, again, living up to this non-DEI, right, implementation and how you're auditing people as well. Yeah, we ain't paying for stuff for free out here. The fraud and abuse got to go from everybody.
And another disclaimer, the Orthodox Jewish community, they have a serious Silk Road from the state of New York going down to the state of Florida, where they have, whether it's education, infrastructure, trading within our nation, legals, it's not, and that's not bad. That's good. So these people are already set up getting state funding, and a lot of people in that community are all on welfare as well.
Yes, there's a big
and there's a lot of fraud with them with this real estate, and I'll have to do a whole show on that. So yeah, but I really appreciate you coming on, Pamela Denise Long for Senate for the state of Illinois. Go to her website, longforsenate2026.com. Donate. And if you live in the state of Illinois, vote in the primary. And I'm just going to have you back on in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the conversation. Take good care.
All right, you too. Love having her on. Great guest.
You understand some of what I interjected, I have to, because I'm being recruited for a political run myself. So some of the things I can't just say, I go for this.
I totally get that. It's just that I always tell you about time, because she literally is going to another meeting because she's
I know how that works.
So
Been there, seen
you
that,
off. And honestly, if this was pre-recorded, it's and this is live. So pre-recorded, we just have more time. And we
got it.
Last week, yeah.
Real quick. Got 10 minutes to get to where she's got to go on another call.
That was a good conversation, and I wish it could be longer. And that's why I like to do pre-record. It's just that it just couldn't happen last week. So, but I'm glad she did come on. Thank you to the Jackal. I'm from Argentina. My mother is Irish American. Other half of my family, we trace our roots to Argentina to the 1500s. The Irish side of my family is not seen as white, nor are any Slavic descended Latins I know. Okay, thank you, the Jackals. Appreciate the Judge. What happened? Appreciate the super chat. Shout out to Miss 1950. Yes. Bernard asked the judge, what should children grades 6 to 12 be learning in preparation for the future workforce? Also, will college be a necessity? Good question.
Math, English, able to read, able to be rational, reasonable, logical, analytical, and skeptical. In other words, to be able to deal in analytical discourse and to learn about your government. Now, you're getting fed, in my opinion, a bill of goods. Getting into vocational fields is a dead end that's going to be very nasty in about 20, 25 years. And if you are 20-ish now, 10 now, you need to develop your mind, because AI and robotics and computerization is going to make you obsolete. A robot does not have to look like an anthropomorphic creature on 2 legs with arms. an aircraft, commercial aircraft, 737, 747, whatever, is a robot. When the pilot flips on the switch to put it on full autopilot, it's functioning as a robot carrying people. You get in a car in some states that doesn't have a driver and it drives you along, that's a robot. And that's without AI attached. These devices that you depend on, that's AI, and they're taking over the manufacturing and service fields. They're even getting into law, though AI is getting a lot of firms in trouble because what they print out is just garbage nonsense. But they call it hallucinating. But AI is making a whole lot of stuff a dead end. Get your mind together, get a vocational skill, but treat it as a matter of being able to sustain yourself until you get your head in a place where you can use it. Because what you have up here is a lot more valuable than your labor, because you're no longer the best thing when it comes to doing labor or even analysis as it comes around. So get your brain together, understand how to think critically. If you're not smart enough, well, that's the problem. But if you are, don't cut yourself off.
All right. And thank you again to Yakar. I did see your email. I will respond. What effects change the most in our community? That was from earlier, so I don't know what that was.
What was the question?
What effects change the most in our community?
Public perception and consensus.
Okay, cool. Bernard Barnett says, I wanted to select all the above on the poll. That was a poll that I had as far as do you support ICE? And I said yes, no, something else, but that was from earlier. And of course, this was the first one. Again, Yakar, I am going to respond to your email. Thank you for that lovely, lovely donation. Thank you to, again, Pamela Denise Long. Go to longforsenate2026.com. I'm going to put her link in the community section, in the comment section. I'm sorry. Go and support, donate, donate, donate. And if you live in the state of Illinois, vote, vote, vote for Pamela Denise Long. And what is this? Okay. And thank you to everybody that donated, everybody listening, everybody on X, and you, Judge. Always a pleasure. Great show.
Now,
Say good night. Say bye.
Don't get too chilled. Hypothermia is real.
Right. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Oh, and make sure you subscribe to the Patreon. Bye.
Don't get chilled. Hypothermia is real. Keep warm and come on back.